So recently I sat down to write a blog post about what camera I would buy if I was starting a YouTube channel all over again. And I kind of approached this from if I had enough money to buy any camera I want now, and the answer to that is a Sony a7S III. But then it got me to thinking, like, early 2018 is when I decided I wanted to start a channel. And at the time I was broke and I could not afford a camera at all. Like, I couldn't even afford to upgrade the iPhone. And so I started thinking, like, what if I only had $500 or $1,000 or something like that to spend on a camera? Like, what camera would I buy in that situation? And I think it gets to a deeper question of, like, when I started YouTube, like, what was the stuff that I didn't know about cameras that I really wish I had known? And that's kind of what this video is mostly going to be about. And I'm going to end it with the camera I would buy if I were starting over and had like a $500 to $1,000 budget. When you start out, you're a fragile little baby. After you make like 30 videos and nobody's watching, you don't care anymore. You're just putting crap out there on the internet. Nothing matters to you. But like your first 10 videos, let's say, you want them to be so perfect and you can't achieve it because you're not good at filmmaking at all. Every time my camera doesn't record what it was I thought I recorded, it feels devastating. It just ruins your day, maybe your life. Not your life, you'll get over it, but like, definitely your day. Which gets me to the camera that I actually bought 2 years ago, which is this one, the Panasonic Lumix G7. Appealed to me about this camera at the time was that it could shoot 4K. I thought that was important to me. It also didn't cost a ton of money. For this body and the adjustable kit lens that came with it, it was only like $500. This camera, it has a lot of good qualities to it, but one of its bad qualities is that Panasonic, the entire lineup, even if you go with a modern Panasonic camera, they all use something called contrast detect autofocus. And what that is basically this camera will lock on to whatever the brightest thing in your shot is, or it will attempt to. It'll pulse back and forth like some type of maniac until it thinks it finds it. It may focus on the wrong thing. If my wall back there were brighter than I was, it might focus on that and not me. Now, if you're a one-man YouTuber, this is a disaster in the making. You are going to have a lot of shots where your camera can't find you or it loses you when you shift back and forth. You're gonna notice my Sony does not do this ever. Sonys have moved on to either eye detect or face detect autofocus. It does not lose you. I can move around, I can move out of the shot. I almost banged my head against that. It doesn't matter. It'll keep on me no matter what I do. You know, doesn't matter. This thing will lose you a lot. And when it loses you for 2-3 minutes at a time, it ruins the entire clip. And you're gonna feel absolutely defeated, particularly in your first like 10 videos or so. That's why I can't recommend this camera to anybody in 2021, because that feeling of defeat is just what you're trying to avoid. You don't wanna have to think constantly, is this thing getting the shot? Is it not getting the shot? So that pretty much eliminates, for me at least, Panasonic's entire lineup. They're still not doing face detect autofocus. Second thing I wish I knew about cameras when I was starting out is that lenses are more expensive than the bodies of the camera. So if you're broke to the point where you've only got, you know, $400 or $500 to spend on a camera, and you buy this with the kit lens, this is the only lens you're probably only gonna ever have. Lenses, even for this camera, are probably at least a couple $100, potentially more. Okay, the next thing I wish I knew about cameras, when I started out, I wanted an all-in-one audio solution. In a dream world, you think, okay, I'm gonna plug a shotgun mic into the top of this camera, I'm gonna record myself, and it's gonna be perfectly fine. I don't have to like sync audio and post or anything, it's all just gonna be good. I actually got my Panasonic on me right now filming this, and I kind of want you just to sit here and see if you can notice what the problem with the audio is. These cheap cameras have like a really noisy preamp. You're gonna hear a ton of noise, like white noise, whenever you stop talking with these things. Okay, the next thing I wish I knew about cameras, all cameras struggle in low light situations. This is how when they make those videos about how they tell you your iPhone is just as good as this really expensive $3,000 camera. The trick they play is they take the iPhone pictures in broad daylight, and then they take the camera pictures in broad daylight and they're like, see, they're the same. Like there's no difference between them. And that's kind of bullshit. The sensor on this camera is teeny tiny, and the sensor on the full frame the camera is pretty freaking big. What that allows it to do is capture more of the light in the area. If the sun went down and all I had was this artificial light on me, this cell phone would struggle. Whereas my full frame camera could handle it pretty easy. Like that camera, I mean, I'll show you in a little bit. I could be in a dark room with no light. I could shut off every light in this thing, turn up the ISO, and then thing would cruise through it. There wouldn't be any problems. Next thing I wish I knew about cameras. So when I was buying cameras back in 2018, I was really into like the camera's 4K capabilities. And now as a seasoned YouTuber, 4K is bullshit. It's impossible to watch a 4K YouTube video. The resolution on these phones is not 4K. The resolution on a 2018 iPad Pro, not 4K. The resolution on pretty much any monitor that's not $1,000, not 4K. Even if you had a 4K television that you were watching YouTube on, and even if you had a 4K Chromecast or Apple TV system that you could stream 4K content to, you then need YouTube to deliver that content in 4K and not downsample it to HD, because YouTube doesn't want 4K bandwidth going around, and 1080 is good for virtually everybody. Maybe 1% of your audience is seeing your videos in 4K. Probably not. It's probably 0, which means 4K doesn't matter. I'm not telling you not to shoot in 4K, because it's cool that you can zoom in 2x. After you zoomed in 2x, the quality is going to be exactly the same when you ship it to YouTube in 1080. But when I was buying cameras, I was obsessed with their 4K performance. And cameras like the G7 or like some of the older Canon cameras, they do better in 1080, and I think you should just film in 1080, not deal with their 4K problems where like the autofocus doesn't work as well in 4K or some of the other stuff doesn't work as well in 4K. Okay, the next thing I wish I knew about cameras. iPhones, cell phones, you get an Android phone because you're poor. I'm just messing with you. These cell phones get better and better every year, and if you're watching these a few years in the future, you probably have a camera that's absolutely awesome already on you. The problem is that the lens is on this side of the camera where I cannot see my face. There is a solution to this. I actually recommend you film, if you're gonna film with your iPhone, just use your Selfie-Cam. The Selfie-Cam is not as good as the back cam. In fact, it's not even close to as good. Your back cam can do some awesome stuff that your selfie cam can't do. But when you're filming on the selfie cam, you can see yourself, you can see that you're recording, and you're not going to lose your shot. And if you are losing your shot, you'll see it. If we go back to my first point of losing a shot is absolutely horrific. You're not seeing what's happening on the screen. You might lose a lot of shots, and that is so much worse than bad picture quality. I would not recommend that you buy a $700 iPhone for the camera. Just buy a camera. The cameras are better. Even like the crappy older cameras I'd rather see you have. And the other thing I wish I knew about cameras when I got started is that they retain their value pretty well. So this Lumix G7, when I bought it, it was $500. Go on eBay right now and look up how much it is. You could probably sell this for $300-400, and this camera was made in 2015. Okay, grand finale. What camera would I recommend for a brand new YouTuber starting out today? It's the Sony ZV-1. Now what you're saying, Sean, why the heck would you recommend this camera? I think it's like $800. You're gonna wanna buy the $100 wide angle lens adapter for it because I think the focal length is only 35 millimeters, which is tight. You kinda want it wider. So $900 for the total package, not cheap. Reason 1, autofocus. Sony's autofocus, perfect. It's face detect, it gets you every time. You can film in S-Log3, great. You can also film in H.265, which is a modern file format. Awesome. It's reasonably dependable, so you're not gonna lose your shot. The autofocus isn't gonna miss you. You're not gonna have memory card read errors because it's a modern camera. Slow-mo capabilities, like extreme slow-mo capability. That's something that some of these older 2015 cameras definitely don't have. It's even got a built-in ND filter, which is something that no cameras have. Even my Sony a7S III doesn't have it. I kind of wish it had it. And what that does is basically you're filming outside, it's too bright, up the ND filter, and suddenly you've got good content. The only real downside to that camera, as I see it, is that it's got a small sensor. It's a point and shoot, so the sensor is only a little bit bigger than your iPhone. You're not gonna have any problems in normal light situations. It's just when you get into darker situations where you really want bigger sensor to be able to get capture things without so much noise. The other advantage of the ZV-1 is point and shoot. It doesn't really come with the ability to put tons of different lenses on it. And in this situation, if you're broke, that's actually a good thing because like I was telling you before, lenses are expensive. You can't afford them anyway. That's it, guys. That's everything I wish I knew about cameras when I was starting out. If you're looking to start a YouTube channel and you want a camera, Sony ZV-1, if you have around $1,000. If you do not have $1,000, the phone you have is going to be your best option. And I would just film it with the Selfie-Cam, even though it sucks, because losing footage sucks more. Hope that helps you out, guys. I'll see you guys later.